Hey Tammy, I'm struggling with my boss. They seem to be extremely micromanaging, and it doesn't matter what I do, I can't seem to get any traction, and the company doesn't want to do anything. What's my next step? This is an example of a direct message or an email that I would get from somebody who is struggling with what they think might be bullying in the workplace. And so in this video, I'm going to give you some next steps that you may want to consider to implement in your strategy to creating a psychologically safe workplace for you. All right, so you've identified the situation that's uncomfortable, and there's some sense that maybe you've tried to do something, but I want to just kind of scale it back as to where the lowest level conversation should be to make sure you've done that first. So the first thing you would need to do is to invite this person to a conversation. Obviously you need to feel safe enough to do that. And if this is an interpersonal problem without any physical threats, there would be grounds to invite them to a conversation. Now, sometimes we lack the confidence. Sometimes we lack the courage. Sometimes we don't know what words to say or to really express how we're feeling. And we're worried we're going to get triggered again. Those are all natural fears. The thing is to come up with a process and a system that will allow you to invite that conversation. So for this scenario, I'm going to presume that you've already attempted to have this lowest level conversation. And if you haven't, then I would encourage you to consider picking up the free resource, the 10 Safe Conversational Starters below. And if that's not enough to support you, then it may be time for an epiphany call with me to see if the program I teach, helping people develop their confidence and courage to have these courageous conversations, is something that would be fit for you. Now, that aside, assuming you've already had this conversation, the next thing would be is reflect. What were you thinking before you went to this meeting? What were you anticipating? What were your judgments about their interaction and stuff? So I've certainly been through this more than once. Unfortunately, when you're comfortable speaking up and calling out stuff in a workplace, you get to grow a lot in terms of how you understand relationships and how you are participating in that. The next thing is to seek out a mentor. This may be talking to your supervisor, this may be a colleague, a trusted colleague, or somebody external. Kind of debrief with them and let them know what's going on, and just check in and say, maybe I don't have the whole scenario. Maybe I've got the wrong impression. Would somebody else react the same way with the context in which I've shared? Do a check-in with somebody else and get some guidance and information from them that might help you with your next step of re-engaging in a conversation if it's appropriate. I always think when we learn about ourselves, it's worthwhile to revisit an at-risk relationship so that we can explore it more and to share what we've learned about ourselves. Now again, the other person may not be interested, and that is their prerogative. So how do you then move forward? Well, we've got a few options. We can quit if we're really unhappy in that relationship and that workplace. Stress leave may be an option for you, or you may want to go file a grievance, or you can just suck it up and say, okay, I'm not going to be able to win this one. I'm going to put my head down, do my job, and not worry about them anymore. So there's 4 options that you could do next. Let's break each of those down. So quitting seems to be the most obvious. A lot of people do quit a job and they move into another job, and sometimes that's the right thing to do. You can quite happily find a new organization that treats their people better and is more willing to resolve conflict and tension when it arises that suits you to a much higher degree. So that may be the right answer for you. It's not always my first answer though. I think quitting would be the last thing to do. I think you need to work yourself out of a relationship. However, if it's painful and that's the best thing you can do for yourself right now, that's one of your options. Now, depending on where you live, you may also have stress leave as an option. So time off of work so you can get some space and time between you and the issue. Think about things, build up your resilience, build up your skill set, really get clear on what you want in this relationship and from the organization before you go back and engage again, because you will need to set some standards and expectations around what the workplace looks like for you to be safe. While you're considering these options, you may also want to consider doing the formal route. So in every organization, generally, there are policies and procedures around workplace of respect, harassment, whistleblowers, those kind of things, roles and responsibilities. Check in with those. Get familiar with the documents in your organization to see where you can flex and where you can follow a process to get a result. Now, I will share, when I first started following the formal route, I had attempted to do many of the informal routes, tried to get mentors and all that stuff, and I was quite happy to follow the processes that were available to me, but I was warned. If you file this grievance, you will look like you're the one who can't get along. So this is a huge culture thing, right? So I still filed the grievance because I knew what I wanted and I knew it was fair and I knew it was right. Just be warned that this may also cause more tension, that you're eventually just going to quit the job anyways. And then the last option is you can just suck it up. Many people will stay in jobs that are harmful to them, and they will find a way to compartmentalize that relationship, that stressor, in order for them to come in, do their job, focus on it, get the paycheck that helps them support the job or support the life that they want to live, while they're looking maybe for another alternative, while they're upgrading their skill set, while they're considering, do I have enough savings to actually start my own job? Whatever that might be for you, sometimes you do need to stay in a toxic environment for reasons that are personal and important to you. So if you're going to do that, we need to set boundaries up around what's going to look like safe for you. You know, for example, if your harasser is using your personal phone to email you, we can put a boundary around that. Please email me only in the workplace, because you're off hours when you're not at work. If they're texting you, if they're DMing you at home, we can put boundaries around that so that your impact with the stressor is limited to the hours in which you are to work. And then, of course, conversations with your supervisor. Maybe it's a lateral transfer. Maybe it's a temporary assignment somewhere else. Ways in order to minimize the time that you have to interact with this person. So there you have it. You've got a few options that you can consider when you're dealing with a boss and a culture that's maybe unwilling to look at the situation and support you in creating a psychologically safe workplace. The caveat is you need to be willing to come to the table as well. But I do want to also share, you need to feel safe to do so. And if you're not feeling safe to do so, then you need to talk and seek support so that you can come to the table when you feel comfortable to do so. So I guess the summary of this video is you can quit, you can go on stress leave, or you can put your head down. But there's also the grievance route. So there are 4 options that you can follow if you feel like you're not getting traction in the workplace.